I remember being so exhausted, I literally felt like I had horizontal narcolepsy. This was in my late 30s, almost 15 years ago, and I literally could not keep my eyes open. And I was training at the time to become an FDNP, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I was studying the very thing that was happening to my body. And I still couldn't figure out what was going on. So I ran a 24-hour cortisol saliva test on myself and the Dutch hormone test. I was absolutely shocked. My cortisol was completely flatlined, so low that they actually flagged me for Addison's disease. And the protocol at the time was cortisol cocktails, licorice root, ashwagandha, rhodiola, things like that. And while it helped give me some energy, it did not fix the root cause of the issue. All of the adaptogens in the world were not going to fix that issue. And that is the wellness trend number one, okay? Every time you follow a protocol that is not built for your physiology, you don't just fail to get results, okay? You end up depleting something. Some things like, for example, cortisol starts to go up and then muscle mass will start to go down and your nervous system is more dysregulated than before you started this whole program. And the next time you try, you are generally starting over again from a new baseline. This is why women who have done everything right often feel worse than they did 10 years ago. These women, they didn't fail the protocol. The protocol actually failed them. I'm Jennifer. I'm a licensed therapist, a trauma-informed strength coach. I've owned a gym for over 12 years. I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I've worked with over 1,500 women. The trends that promised the most for people often delivered the least because they ignored the one variable that controls everything else, and that variable is your nervous system. Some of these trends may work for some people's bodies, and they're usually younger bodies, usually male species, okay, but not bodies running on years of chronic stress and hormonal shifts, and a nervous system that has learned to protect itself. The body isn't generally the problem, but the mismatch between the body and the protocol is. And the cost of that mismatch isn't just no results, it's sometimes less muscle, more cortisol, and a harder starting point every single time. And that cycle ends today. Every trend I am about to cover fails women over 40 for the same reason. It triggers a threat response in a body already in a threat state. So you are not broken. Your body is doing what a chronically stressed nervous system is designed to do. The problem isn't you, the problem is the protocol. So here are the 7 trends. Number 1, detox programs and cortisol cocktails. Like I said earlier, I really thought all those cortisol cocktails would save me and finally reboot my system. This trend covers 2 things marketed separately, but they are most of the time trying to solve the same problem, stress and cortisol. The cortisol cocktails are things like ashwagandha sea salt, morning ashwagandha drinks, or detox programs that are supposed to reset your system or reduce bloating or clear out toxins. Both are responding to a real problem, and elevated cortisol is real. But the solution is where things tend to go wrong. Cortisol is not the enemy, but chronically elevated cortisol is, and no morning drink fixes that. The source is often nervous system dysregulation, things like inadequate sleep, unresolved stress, unprocessed threat responses, and some type of beverage or supplement, it can't reach that. And a cleanse that restricts calories will often make a dysregulated nervous system worse. So instead, address cortisol at the root, okay? Address sleep, nervous system reduction, regulation, okay, not necessarily the hormone at hand like cortisol. Number 2, manifestation frameworks as a health strategy. The next wellness trend has good intentions, okay, but I don't care how much manifesting I did, okay, it was not going to change my chronic pain or my state of my life at the time. I could not use manifestation alone to find my way out of chronic pain or into a successful business. If I wanted those things to change, I actually needed to change. Yes, positive affirmations can help to a degree, but they cannot replace the actual work. Manifestation frameworks, the idea that your thoughts are the primary driver of your physical results, have become part of the whole weight loss conversation. You may have heard things like visualize the body you want, or believe your way to health, or align your energy. Mindset is genuinely part of this work, but there is a big difference between mindset as a support layer and mindset as the primary protocol. Mindset work cannot lower your cortisol, it cannot rebuild muscle, and it cannot regulate a nervous system locked in a threat response. When your body is holding weight as a biological safety signal, thinking differently about it is not going to change the signal. You need to change the conditions that created the signal. So instead, think of it this way. Belief without physiological capacity is fragile. Build the foundation first, and then the mindset follows. Number 3, gut health supplement stacks without addressing the autonomic nervous system. This next wellness trend cost me boatloads of money. I did GI mapping, I took every type of probiotic out there, gut resets, biocidin, and nothing changed my chronic constipation. I was so fearful of my colonoscopy when I turned 50 that I waited until I was 52 to get it done. And then when they came out and told me that everything was perfectly fine, clean as a whistle, I nearly shit myself. No pun intended. Why? Probably because I have an ACEs score of over a 4. I'm an adult child of an alcoholic, and I have been through enough in my lifetime, in my 52 years, that my colon has been bracing for impact ever since I was 7 years old. Gut health supplements, probiotics, prebiotics, digestive enzymes, gut lining support stacks, all of those are the fastest growing wellness categories. Things like bloating, irregularity, food sensitivities, IBS, these are real and debilitating. The problem is that the answer being sold is often a product, when the actual driver is usually a system, like your nervous system. The supplement industry is making a fortune off of this. It is deeply predatory space, especially for women with chronic stress histories like I have. Gut dysfunction is often the result of nervous system dysregulation. Your vagus nerve directly runs from your brain down to your gut. When your nervous system is in a chronic threat state, your gut reflects that. And there is no probiotic stack that can override an overactivated automatic nervous system. There is no amount of biocidin that is going to change that. The gut was telling the truth about the nervous system. I just didn't listen, okay? I needed to learn to listen to the right signal. So support gut health, but treat the nervous system as the upstream driver, not just as an afterthought. Number 4, detox teas and laxative-based cleansing. Now that I knew I didn't have some serious type of colon cancer, which I genuinely believed I thought I might, okay, I had to face what I had actually been doing to cope, okay? Things like detox teas, laxatives, reaching for products that promised to move things, okay? This does not solve the problem. And weaning yourself off of things like that, it is not easy. The dependency is real. Most products don't tell you that level of dependency. What I actually needed was to address pelvic floor dysfunction. TMI, but I just want to keep this as real as possible because detox teas and laxative-based products work by stimulating your bowel to move faster or drawing fluid into the intestine. Marketed as cleansing, purifying, or flattening the belly, or resetting digestion. For women with GI motility issues, okay, this is very common in women with chronic stress histories like I have. This creates a very specific problem. Less food intake leads to slower motility. Slower motility leads to more bloating. More bloating leads to less intake, and the cycle continues. And these products, they don't break that cycle. They actually accelerate it. So instead, for GI symptoms in this population are most often take into consideration your nervous system or stress history or a type of pelvic floor dysfunction that may be going on. Treat the source. Number 5, this has to go, aggressive caloric restriction and the scale lie that keeps this whole thing going. Okay, so this one covers everything. 1,200 calorie protocols, 1 meal a day type programs, or extended fasting, or juice cleanses, okay? This trend needs to stop. And the reason that it keeps women reaching for them is simple, because when they try them, the number on the scale actually does drop, but never permanently. When you are under chronic stress, cutting calories that aggressively, it may feel like discipline to you, but it doesn't feel like discipline to your nervous system. It actually feels like famine to your nervous system. And then cortisol spikes, your body starts to break down muscle for fuel, and you may end up some pounds lighter on the scale, but you will also be weaker, colder, and more depleted than when you started. The scale said you succeeded, okay? But your physiology says something very different. And because the scale is the metric that society trains people to value, you never learned to listen to your physiology, okay? We just think that we need to try harder the next time. So instead of doing that, do this. Distribute protein across the day, eat enough to rebuild, measure strength and energy, not just weight. Fortunately, I never engaged in this trend, but chronic cardio and daily HIIT training. Chronic cardio, running, cycling, group cardio classes, those type of things, daily HIIT training have been the default fat loss prescription for decades. Thank God I knew enough not to fall into this trap. The research on HIIT training is real. It does produce results. The question is, for what type of body and under what conditions, at what frequency? Your body, it doesn't run on effort logic, okay? It runs on signals. The signal that chronic cardio sends without strength training alongside it is this. It says preserve nothing and protect everything. Daily high intensity cardio on top of a chronically stressed nervous system, it does not build fitness. It actually adds to the whole depletion load. So instead, do this. Strength training with progressive overload preserves muscle. It signals safety and it down-regulates the stress response. That is the main foundation. And number 7, BMI as a health assessment tool, okay? The body mass index, that has got to go. It is just a height-weight ratio, which places you in a category of underweight, normal weight, overweight, and obese. It is still used as a primary screening tool in most conventional medical settings. BMI was designed as a population-level statistic tool. It was never designed to assess an individual's health, okay, their level. It tells you nothing about how much muscle mass you have. It tells you nothing about your inflammatory markers. It tells you nothing about the state of your nervous system or your cortisol load. Ilana Mayer, okay, if I say that right, the Olympic rugby player, she was famously called out. She called out the flaws of BMI on social media. She stands at 5'10", 200 pounds. Her BMI places her at solidly overweight. She is one of the most elite athletes in the world. A woman can have a normal BMI and be in significant metabolic distress. She's often someone who I've seen who has been told by every metric that she's fine, but she is also known as skinny fat. So instead, okay, strength capacity, recover quality, sleep, energy, body composition, that is real data, not BMI. So while those are the 7 wellness trends that need to go, okay, on the other side of this, I want to tell you what it could look like, because this is something that you need to look for. This is not a before or after. This is not a number on the scale. This is what success looks like. Success is you sleep through the night, okay, all the way through. You wake up with energy, okay, not energy that was manufactured because of a drink, okay. You walked into a workout and your body feels capable. You eat a meal and you think about something else other than food. Food stops being the negotiation it has been for years. When I see women who finally start to down-regulate and start to understand their nervous system responses and start to pay attention to things like sleep, like how they feel when they're eating versus just counting macros, when they start doing all of these things, they start to present very differently. And then things actually start to work from there, because it is not just a calories in, calories out equation. This is something I notice, what I see consistently happen when women finally understand their nervous system, okay? When they finally understand that their nervous system is operating on a threat response. When they can finally start to calm that down, they begin to find levels of consistency with all the things they need to execute, and then things start to change. And that change, none of it comes from a cleanse, okay? It comes from building a body that finally feels safe to be in. And that work is slower, but it's work that lasts. So before you go, do this one thing, not a program, okay? Just look at this list and identify the one trend that you might be currently using. And if that fits a pattern, okay, just one, okay? Name that trend, write it down, okay? And then make a decision today that you are done with it, okay? You're not gonna do that. Not because you failed, but because now you understand why it wasn't working. The system is failing you, okay? That's a whole different problem. These trends didn't fail because you weren't trying hard enough, okay? They failed because they were designed for a different body, pretty much a different stress load and a different biology than yours. You were not set up to fail by laziness, okay? That's not why you failed. You were set up to fail by an industry that never really asked you the right question. And the right question isn't, why can't she do the program? Okay, it's, does this program actually understand her nervous system? You don't need a whole new trend, all right? You need a body that finally feels safe enough to change. So if this resonated for you, share it with someone that you think it might help also. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.